Okay, so let's start with Jenny. Hi, everybody. Um, I may take a moment based on some of the questions to say a little bit about the mental game in golf, but I thought, let's just start out with questions. And if you have a question, please type it into the chat sequence and then I'll take it. And I have a couple of questions that were emailed into us. So let's start with Jenny's. I had a personal trauma 2 years ago, which has affected my putting. My right arm and hand does this sort of jerk when I go to putt. I'm over the trauma now and trying to go back to the usual way. It's still there in the back of my mind. Do I have any tips? Well, tips rhymes with another word that starts with Y. and I'm afraid that that's what we're talking about. It's like this your hand has a mind of its own. So Jenny, I'm going to unmute you and ask, did you change your grip in order to address this?
I've been putting with my left arm, with the club against my left arm and my right arm sort of like that.
Gotcha.
And it's been successful.
Mm-hmm.
But for a long putt, there's a restriction. And I just feel I've done all this forgiveness work and gratitude, and I now feel I should, or I could.
Oh, that's better. Good.
Do it, go back to the usual way.
Okay.
So I have been 2 rounds now. The last 2 rounds, and I played this afternoon, but it just keeps creeping in.
Yes, it does. Yes,
that moment when you just go to hit the ball.
Yes. And there's a twitch.
That's right. Yes.
Okay. So I'll do a little explaining on that. Okay.
Okay.
Now, the psychological reason for that, and I'm totally convinced that it is psychological. It's not neurological. It's not some muscles in your hand, because on the practice screen it doesn't show up for a lot of people. But what happens is the painful experience of missing a short putt. The painful experience of missing a short putt in stimulus response studies in psychology, whatever happens a half a second before you have a painful experience gets associated with it. So that painful experience of missing a putt that we think, and here's where should comes in, we should make, so we punish ourselves when we miss it. It's very painful. A 3-foot putt and you miss the hole, okay, so that's painful. That feeling of contraction gets associated with the last thing that happens before you experience, a half a second before you experience that, and that was the putter hitting the ball. So now you associate the putter hitting the ball with that kind of pain, and essentially you flinch because just hitting the ball, your brain thinks, oh, I'm going to feel pain. But it doesn't think I'm going to feel pain in half a second. It thinks I'm going to feel pain at the moment I hit the ball. So it's like, right? If somebody's gonna hit you, twitch, and that's what's going on. There's this twitch that happens. For some people, it backs up even further because they associate the putter starting to come down towards the ball with that painful feeling. So it's one additional association. And then for some people, the only way that the thing that happens before the putter starts to come down is you take it back. And that's what happened to Ben Hogan. The series of associations went from missing the short putt to hitting the ball to starting the downswing to starting the backswing, and he couldn't take it back. He got frozen over the ball and could not take the putter back. And you see people, they're stuck that way. So all of these places are where this particular Y word happens, and it is this twitch. So The source of the pain is the outcome. And that's where the mistake comes in. And that's how you can train yourself out of them. How the putt turns out is not your job. Your job is getting the ball started rolling. How it ends up is not your job. You can't control how it ends up. You can just give it the best start that you can. So if you change your focus from worrying about how it's going to turn out to making your plan, envisioning, and we're going to get to this, this is another question that got emailed in, envisioning how you want the ball to travel and go in the hole, and having that vision, but only focusing on getting it started on that path. Once you do that, as soon as you change your job, then the worry about results disappears. And that's why I separate out making and holing. I changed the definition of making a putt. Making a putt is you were happy the way it started. You were happy the way it left the putter face. Holding the putt is whether it goes in or not. So making the putt is your job. And that's why my latest golf book was How to Make Every Putt. You can make every putt. You can get every putt started just the way you want. Now, if you didn't read it quite correctly or didn't judge the speed quite correctly, maybe it doesn't go in. But that doesn't mean you didn't execute your job properly. The ball just didn't do its job. So that's how you separate it out. And so if you can just focus on that, and the stepping stone to that, Jenny, is to take a practice stroke right next to the ball and of the size and force that you want. And do that until you say, yeah, that's the one I want to put on the ball. And then your only job is to reproduce that size stroke right there and watch the stroke finish so that you're sure that you made that same size stroke. And then that's your only job. And then after the putter stops going forward, only then do you look to see whether the ball did its job. Okay, and that does a lot of good things because it keeps you in your posture. And it takes away the concern, the worry about results. Working with Christy Kerr, one of the best putters ever, she coined the acronym WAR, W-A-R, is worry about results. And when you worry about results, you're at war with yourself. So that's your job, is what you can control, which is how you move the putter through the ball. And the Y word, that twitch, happens because you're panicking about how it's going to turn out. And so you have to separate out that, you have to undo that association. The association you created between the pain of missing a putt and the impact of the putter on the ball. So you have to separate out that association of outcome and execution. All right? Good. Okay. So let's get to that question that was right with this. This is from Rob Witherspoon. I'm reading Zen Putting and I'm confused. I don't mind you being confused. I don't want you to have a misunderstanding, but I don't mind you being confused. Okay, because we can clarify that. Recommending that you visualize the putt. That's what I just talked about. Seeing the path and how it goes, how you hope that and expect that it will go in the hole. But I also said, thinking about how the shot will turn out before you execute it is putting the cart, or is it putting the cart? I guess it's spelled the same way, putting and putting, is putting the cart before the horse. And they seem conflicting. Okay, so visualizing your intention is like looking at a map and saying, okay, this is where I want to go. I need a map to know where I want to go. And so the map tells me what direction I want to turn when I come out of the parking lot. If I don't have the map, I don't know which way I'm going to turn. So you need to have the map. You have to have what you see. And when I say see, it's whatever is in your mind's eye. It doesn't mean it's like you see the ball rolling like a movie, or you see a bright yellow paintbrush painting the line all the way to the hole, all the different ways that visualization has been described. You have a sense of how it's going to move. In one of my chapters in Zen Golf, a player said, I'm having trouble visualizing the putts, and I said, I said, that's okay. A lot of people have trouble visualizing. If you could visualize, what would it look like? And he said, well, it would start out straight, and about halfway there it would start turning left, and right near the hole it would turn sharply to the left and go in the right side of the hole. I said, that's it. He said, that's all? I don't have to see it like a movie? I said, no. However it appears to your mind, the way you just described it, that's the image you have. So see how the path you hope you expect it to take. If you did a good job of reading the putt for the speed and the break, the speed and the slopes, and the grain perhaps, okay? But then you switch off to doing your job, and you do it in 3 parts. And that is, whatever practice stroke you make, you feel like, okay, I got the stroke, I'm done with the stroke. Then you set your putter to the start of that line you wanted to start on, or path that you wanted to start on. And once you've set the putter and taken your stance, you're done with direction. What you hold as an image in your mind is, after a good long look towards the hole, and maybe it's not towards the hole, but a point even with the hole down your path, whatever works for you the best, to give you a sense of the distance you want the ball to roll. That's the image, that's the last thing that you hold in your mind. And because now it's all about pace. You know the stroke you're going to put on it. You've already decided the direction. It's the direction that's perpendicular to where the putter face is. So hit it where the putter's pointing, in essence. And then it's only the pace that you're concerned with, rolling it to roll that distance. And so there's no conflict between a visualization of your plan for the putt and then your execution without worry about how the outcome will be. You want to have 100% confidence that you read it just perfectly, and that if you start it the way you want, it's going in. And then you start it, and then you see what happens. Someone asked Tiger Woods, when he was at the peak of his game, he would, to get either into a playoff like he did in the 2008 US Open, or to win a tournament by 1, he would hold 10, 15, 20, 30-foot putts over crusty, baked greens, bumpy, and clutch, and they'd go in. They said, how do you do it? And he said, I read it the best I can. I get a feel for the pace the best I can. I put as good a stroke on it as I can, and then I see what happens. That's it. Exactly. I can't claim that he necessarily listened to one of my audio tapes. I know his mom had them, but that's exactly what I'm trying to teach here. Okay? I hope that's helpful, Rob. Are you on the call, Rob? Let me see if I can unmute you. Okay, you can unmute yourself, I think.
Yeah.
Rob?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Actually, that wasn't my question.
Oh, this is a different Rob.
Might be. My question was about the moment, like when you're making a swing, that moment of transition from kind of all the preparation you do to go up to the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Like what kind of swing thought? Like what do you focus on? A couple dimples in the back of the ball. That's what I'm struggling. I get to that point. I've sort of thought of my target, but do I think of the distant target? Do I think of the ball? And just sort of some advice, direction in that area would be great.
Okay. Well, some people talk about focusing tightly on a dimple on the ball or something like that. But I think that it's more helpful to have a soft gaze, like we talked about in the previous meditation session. Your eyes are directed toward the ball, but a soft gaze, because what you want to have in your mind is the image, like when we talk about the putt, the image of the shot, a connection to the target. And I try to visualize my shot and then hold an image of the ball, going out and turning in the direction that I'm playing for, or the height of it, or as many qualities as I can, and I hold that in my mind. You see, because your brain doesn't know the difference between a visual image from your eyes and a visual image from your memory or imagination. So, and it takes a little practice, but holding that image in your mind out there, you're looking toward the ball, but you sort of don't see it. What your brain sees is out there, which is really helpful because, if you're doing archery, you're looking in the direction you're shooting. But here, we're not looking in the direction we're shooting, but we can mentally look in that direction. And then the other thing is to have a feel key, for me, I use slow and throw. I feel like I'm taking it back slow and then throwing the club head through the ball. But other people, there's one old pro used to have people imagine there was a nail in the back of the ball, ideally slightly on the inside. So you're coming slightly from the inside, which is where the club head is coming from, because it's not croquet. It's got to come inside to square to inside again. And then picture yourself hammering that nail. There's lots of different swing keys or feels. So I'm not prescribing any one of those, but the only thing you're holding in your mind is an image of where you want to send the ball. Send, not hit at the ball necessarily, but send the ball, and the feel you want to make the move through that's sending it. For people who tend to hold the face open too much, they might feel like swing to toe up. There's all sorts of different ones, and I'm not going to prescribe any one, but those all work that way. Okay? So Ken told me that was Wayne who had that question. Sorry about that, Wayne. Are you on? I don't see him on the call. Anyway, there we go. Okay. So, oh yeah, I see. I'm sorry, Rob. There's your question. The good cue or thought. Focus on a target, swing, thought, dimple. Yep, got it. Okay. So is that helpful? Can you still hear me?
Yes, that's good.
Okay.
That's very helpful. Thank you very much, Dr.
Good. Any other questions? I don't see Wayne. Wayne, is Wayne on the call? Ken, can you tell? Don't know. Okay. So Ken, can we unmute everybody and people can chime? Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. Jenny's got another one. 4 pillars for playing good golf. That was great. Okay. So 4 pillars for playing good golf. Oh, I'm going to unmute Jenny for a second here. Okay.
Do you know what I mean by that?
No, that's why I'm unmuting her.
Well, you know, like you have a table, and to keep the table flat, you have 4 legs, one in each corner. So everybody has their own golf game. And what would be your 4 things that would give you a good performance?
Interesting. Now, there are 3-legged tables, you know.
Oh, well.
We'll go with 4, you know.
Okay.
And the kind of traditional ones are the mental game,
Yeah.
physical fitness, which would include nutrition, and certainly hydration, anything to do with the body, and flexibility and strength, all those things, physical fitness, technique, skill, in other words, skills, and equipment.
Mm.
Now, really, if you have a very, very high level of skill, you can manage with a variety of equipment. But when you really get refined, I was working with VJ, and it's amazing the level of awareness and refinement in their equipment. Both he and I are sponsored by Cleveland Golf, and which now Shrixon merged with Cleveland Golf, but Cleveland did his wedges at least. And one of the guys came over from the fitting van and and said, "Here are your wedges, VJ." And he hit a few, and he had a funny look on his face. And he hit a few more, and he said, the loft is off.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "Veach, we measured them." And he said, he's funny, he said, "So you measured these wedges?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "Then you better go measure them again." And they went to the van, and they came back, and the guy said, "Veach, I hate you. They were 1/4 of a degree off in loft."
Have they really?
So instead of 54 degrees, they were 54 1/4. And he could feel the difference. So when you take you see these 4 pillars, they're not separated. I'd rather you thought of it as do you know what a Duncan Fife table is?
No.
Jenny?
No.
From the UK, and you don't know Duncan Fife table? Okay. The 4 legs all come together in one central pillar under the middle of the table.
Okay.
So it fans out.
Right.
So it kind of fans out like that all the way down. So the 4 legs spread out, but they all come together as one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So your physical fitness and your mental game combine to have body and mind synchronized.
Yeah.
With awareness. Awareness without self-consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Then that awareness applies to your skills, your technique, and your ability, so that you get the most out of your abilities. And when that awareness applies over, like at that level, to your equipment, then you can start to feel subtle differences and feel what works. But that's a very high level of awareness. And, you know, yes, if you hit thousands of golf balls for 6 to 8 hours a day, yeah, you can develop that awareness like VJ does. But that's really the key, to merge all 4 of those together.
Yeah.
So that's what I would suggest. And when it comes to the equipment, on playing any particular shot, you have your mental aspect of it. You want to have your swing feel and rhythm, because the body moves in sequence. Parts of the body move in sequence. Then you want to know the kind of shot you're playing, and then you need to pick the club that's going to work for that shot. Okay, so Guy has asked, I hope that's helpful.
Yeah.
Guy has asked, how do you use breathing in playing golf? Okay, so very critical. What your breathing does is, your breathing is a reflection of your state of mind. They go together, back and forth. in prehistoric times, and even now, if you're in a scary situation and you're worried about what might happen, what do? You hold your breath, which makes sense, because if you hold your breath, you're really silent and you can hear a twig crack where the predator is coming from, and you know you don't have to be faster than the predator. You just have to be faster than the guy that you're running alongside of. So the guy who's more aware of the danger stays in the gene pool. That's why we have a tendency to focus more on what could go wrong, because if we prevent something going wrong, we stay alive. If we don't quite make something positive happen, it doesn't kill us. So that's prehistoric. But the breathing, so also if you're uptight, your energy gets uptight. And when we play golf, we swing from the ground up, ideally, not the top down. So you want your energy down and grounded. So I even have a slogan for golfers to remember: breathe it down, feel the ground. And in the last session, the mindfulness session we did, the first part is grounding practice. If you're going swimming and you want to let yourself sink to the bottom of a pool, you let the air out. So what you want to do, and studies on breathing have shown that breathing in activates the kind of tunes into the activating system, and breathing out tunes into the relaxing aspect of our nervous system. So as you're visualizing your shot and you're really firing yourself up to play that shot, breathe in. But before you walk into the shot, breathe out and get fully grounded. So before you walk into a dress, breathe all the way out and let your breath get all the way out before you step forward. Then you'll feel the ground under your feet. You'll keep your mind connected to the target and use the energy of the ground to send the energy through your body, through the club, through the ball to the target. That's the best way. Now, after the shot, you use your breathing again, because if it doesn't turn out very well, you got to calm yourself down. So you use your breathing at that point, Guy, to calm yourself down.
Okay.
If you're upset about a shot, you won't be able to figure out what went wrong. So you have to breathe first, calm down, and then you can do your post-shot routine and say, what got in the way there? Is that helpful, Guy?
Actually, it's Guy.
Guy. Oh,
yeah,
wonderful, Guy.
Calling from France. So,
where are you from, Guy?
France.
France. Oh, that's
yes.
Wonderful.
So my problem is that I'm never really upset about my game, in fact, and I would like my breathing just to reflect a little bit the energy that I want to put into my shot and not be so, okay, that's just a shot and then wait for the next one. But I'm never really angry about my shot, in fact.
Good. So you don't have to worry about that. But what about before the shot?
Well, in my routine, I don't really think about breathing too much. That's why I asked the questions.
Exactly. So add it to your routine. And the ideal place is after your practice swing.
Mm-hmm.
Take your stance a couple of paces behind the ball, looking past the ball to your target, and then take your breath and breathe it all the way out.
Okay.
And once the breath's all the way out and you feel really grounded, then slowly walk into a dress, because the speed with which you approach the shot sets up your rhythm, and you rush into the shot, you'll rush your swing. Slow and methodical walking into the shot, slow and rhythmic in your swing. Now, when it comes to putting, you may find that it's more helpful to take that breath after you get set and settled into your stance over the ball, and then you breathe out and let all your energy sink down and let your arms soften as you breathe out. and then you'll be ready to stroke the putt. So those are two places that I recommend. And if you're over the ball and you want to use this as a swing trigger, which I do, I take, after my last look down the fairway, I look back towards the ball, take a breath, and I breathe all the way out. And as the breath is almost all the way out, I take the club back.
Okay.
Okay, so those are three places, ways in which you can use the breathing. Okay, let's see. We have John Stevens, and everyone has a bad hole. What's a good technique to let go of the anger so you play the next hole well? That's great. Okay, I have a special technique for that. Now, what I'm going to need to do is change the background so you can see me get up and do this. So I'm going to change to no background. Okay. So here's what you're going to do. All right. Move away from the, there we go. Okay. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to walk, you finish the hole, and you walk off the green, right? Like that. Then I want you to turn around. Do this a little better. There we go. So you're going to walk off the green, and then you turn around and face that hole, and then slam the door. Pretend there's a door there, and you just go, ah! And just like you were slamming a door, okay? So slam that door, and you get a little bit of the anger out of your system, and it feels good to close the door on that previous hole. Then you turn away and head for the next tee and take a breath, do that breathing, and then this is your game plan. And this is the game plan that it doesn't matter how good or bad a hole you just played. It doesn't matter what your score is at what point in the round. You want to address that hole as its own separate entity. Because in golf, you have 18 separate events. And they're separate because when you finish one, you have your ball in hand. During the hole, you have the karma of wherever you hit the last shot, that's where you got to play the next one from. But once you finish the hole, ball in hand, completely independent event physically. And you want to make it a completely independent event mentally, so that you start fresh and say, what's my plan to give myself the best chance for my lowest score on this hole without taking an unnecessary risk? And that applies no matter what your score is at that point in the round, because you don't turn partial scores in. And it doesn't matter what you shot in the last hole, whether you had a triple bogey or an eagle. The next hole is a separate event. Give yourself the best chance. You know, you made the eagle, you might get too excited and take a shot that you have no business trying. You had a bad hole, you get angry and you don't really do your routine and you just rush through the shot to get it over with. Don't let the last hole affect you that way. Clear it out, resolve it. Do your post-shot routine, slam the door if it was a bad hole, take a breath and start fresh. Okay, let's see where we are. I hope that's helpful. That was John. Do you have any further comment, John?
No, that was great. Usually when I get angry, it's not from hitting a bad shot. It's usually because I did something stupid, like, okay, I'm in the rough and I'm 180 yards from the hole and I'm going to go for it even though there's a huge waste area in the left and the ball's above my feet, and poof, it's in the waste area. It's like, okay, you're a moron. Why did you do that instead of just wedging it out into the fairway?
That's right. Well, so, you know that I have a saying called moron golf, and that is when you keep adding more on. you're hitting bad shots, so you try to hit shots you have no business hitting. You are struggling with your swing technique, so you add another swing thought, and then another swing thought, another swing thought. So you're adding more on. But for you, what we're talking about is resolving that. And the post-shot routine is, okay, what was I, literally, you ask yourself, what was I thinking? Right? What was I thinking? So that's the, that you resolve that and you go, I resolve not, I want to minimize the number of stupid mental mistakes that I make. Now, I don't recommend calling yourself names, because if that's who you think you are, you'll make those mistakes. So instead, it's thinking, what got in the way there? What was I thinking? Let's play smarter next time. Now, the reason we take those kinds of shots, John, what's your handicap?
12.
12, okay. So it's not, even if you shoot your handicap and you shot an 84, it's not easy to come in and say, oh, I brought that course to its knees. I shot a smooth 84. So you're looking for an exciting shot. You say, you know what, I was in this deep rough and I took this club out and I made it over that waist area and I'm a hero. That's why you do those shots. So you got to decide, do you want to, and hey, if that's what you want, great, take the shots. I saw that, I hope that's helpful. I saw Joe is here, Joe Williams. I'm going to have you unmute. Okay, Joe. And I got to, are you there? Can you unmute?
I'm here, Doc.
Okay. So Joe, I appreciated your little note. Joe wrote that after a week of coaching at right here where you see the scenery, right, Joe?
That's right.
At Bandon Dunes, that my main suggestion for him was to stop keeping score. He said, how do I improve my game? I said, stop keeping score. Because Joe, you would let the score or what you shot on a previous hole affect later holes. And so I want to congratulate you because you really took that to heart and tried to shift to that game plan that we worked on, what I just taught. Each hole separate and give it your best chance for your lowest score without taking an unnecessary risk. So I'm glad that your handicap is coming down. And yes, you can keep score again unless it gets in the way. Unless it gets in the way, okay?
Well, thank you. It lasted, not keeping score lasted for only a month or two, but I'll have to say it was incredibly liberating. I mean, it is unbelievably liberating not to keep score, but I just couldn't keep not doing it.
I understand. So I have an alternative suggestion for you, and that is to keep score, but score two things. And this will go back to John as well. Keep score of the shots you really liked. And have relatively low standards at first. So start with shots that you thought were pretty good, okay? And count them up. Keep score of those. Oh, after a hole you go, well, let's see, I liked my drive. I didn't care much for the second shot, but I hit a good pitch. Yeah, not such a good putt. Okay, I got 2 points there. I got 2 shots. I get 2 points for that hole. And you get points. And the more points you get, the better you're going to feel and the better round you're going to have. And what it does psychologically is says, I'd like to get a point on this shot. So I'm going to do everything I can to prepare really well so that I have a chance to get a point on this shot. So that's a way of keeping score that will actually enhance your game. And the other score that you can keep is keep count of your mental mistakes. either the anyways, where you didn't feel comfortable overshot, but you went ahead anyway. You knew better, like John said, than to take that club out of that lie, but you went ahead and you did it. And you count so that you are reducing your mental mistakes and increasing the number of shots that you really like. And the score will take care of itself. And then after the round, you can go back and think, well, let's see, I got 2 points on that hole. What score did I have? And put your score in after. You'll be able to remember. And if you don't, that's good. You forgot one of your bad shots. Okay, so
Thanks, Doc.
we have time for one more here. Let's see. A partial right knee replacement, still playing. A setup stance that would have the least stress on the right knee. I am not a physical therapist. I really would suggest, and I have a physical therapist, and I've worked on my issues with her and said, this is what I want to do. How do I get more flexibility here? How do I protect? I have a bad left knee. How do I protect that? And get an expert in physiology, in biophysics, to tell you that answer. I think that's really important. And really, don't hurt yourself, because putting too much stress on it can damage things that aren't completely healed. Now, you had it last April. I had a hip replacement, and it wasn't really fully healed for 2.5 years. It was, in 1 year, it was about 80%, but not fully. So really take care of yourself and be careful, and work with your physical therapist to, whenever you have a joint replacement, all the muscles around that are going to atrophy. So the first thing is to get physical therapy to strengthen that all the muscles in that knee. And then you got the knee replacement, the joint is going to be solid. It's the muscles and ligaments and tendons around it that you have to protect. So get that physical therapy help. Great. And then the last one, Guy says, what are the latest news learned from brain neurology science for sport? Difference from the mental game in golf versus other sports. A little bit of difference in golf versus other sports, because golf is very, I don't know the right word, initiatory as opposed to responsive and reactive. So it's initiative. You have the initiative. The ball is sitting there. You initiate all the action. Now, it's similar to other sports, for example, in baseball for pitching. You have the ball in hand, you initiate all the action. In tennis, serving, you initiate all the action. In basketball, free throws, you're initiating all the action. Now, tennis is somewhat similar because you are kind of looking at the ball and the racket hitting it rather than at your target. So you have to hold the target in your mind. Free throws, you're looking at the target. Baseball, you're looking at your target. Archery, you're looking at the target. But so it's a little bit different in that way. But the mental principle of getting out of your own way to let your talent shine through is the same in any performance, whether it's a sport, whether it's business, whether it's relationships, communication. It's all about getting out of your own way and getting the most out of your ability. So for that point, it goes all the way through to the mental game applies to all of them. The team aspect of other sports is an interesting one. And that's where character plays a big part in being a good teammate. And I'm going to share a couple of quotes with you that I loved hearing. And one was from one of the, I don't remember which coach it was, either Popovich or Kerr or Pete think it was Popovich or Kerr. And they were talking about Bill Russell, the great basketball player for the Boston Celtics. He said, what makes a champion is someone who gets up every morning excited about the ways that they might be able to help their teammates get better. And the other one is from George Mumford, who was the sports psychologist for Phil Jackson with the Bulls and with the Lakers. And he said, there's nothing you can't accomplish. Let's put it in a positive. You can accomplish anything if you're willing to not take credit for it. So I think that that's a good way to wrap up.